Hi, it's Claude Larson. I'm in the studio today. Be careful what you wish for. I had been hoping for rainy weather, hot temperatures, and those kinds of things because the spring had been so beautiful. I was having trouble getting back in here. So today, what I've been doing is working towards starting a new series. And there are, lots of steps to that. Pick your substrate, pick your process, that kind of thing. But for me, a very important step is to also choose my color palette. So I have not a whole lot of purples in my collection, but I do have this one, Permanent Violet Dark. And I haven't ever used it in a series. I'm sure I've used it for something, but nothing comes to mind. So I thought, well, I do like complements, and so I'm going to try yellows and purples to see what I get. So this was a pretty interesting experiment, and here's the few things that I learned. So I had 5 different yellows and only 1 purple. It tells you something about my color preferences. I took Indian yellow and I just kept adding white. And then when I added gray to it, it turned to a green. And then when I added it to the violet, it slowly worked. This almost looks like a Nicolazo Gold, quinacridone Nicolazo Gold to me, but it just keeps working, and it stays in sort of a red phase, which tells me there's a lot of red in the permanent violet. And this is the permanent violet as I added white to it. So, I got this color palette, something to think about. And really my goal was, well, if I'm going to do yellow and purple, which yellow would I do? Purple's easy, I only have 1. So then I took raw sienna, same thing, added white, added gray, started to see the color shift. And it's still on the red side, but it definitely turns peachier, right? It starts to turn a peach color. And then as you add more, right, it gets away from the red. So the raw sienna is taking away some of the red, neutralizing some of the red, to say. The next, one of the other yellows that I tried, Diary Lied Yellow. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but here it is, adding white, adding light gray, medium grays up to a dark gray. Actually, I think this I just added black. So it gives this very warm green color. And again, when I started adding the violet, I started to see it shifting, but this one, right, say compared to this one is much more earth toned. Right? It's pretty similar to this, which I found interesting because Indian yellow hue doesn't really look much like this yellow in its pure form, but it produces similar results, which is really what I'm interested in. It also, when you add the green, right, when you add the gray, it gives you greens. Yeah, again, I ended up getting sort of flesh tones at some point. And here's, again, taking the purple, adding white, adding grays, just to give myself a sense of what kind of color palette this is. 2 to go. This I found very interesting. This is Hansa Yellow Medium. And when I added grays, it did turn green. But when I added the permanent violet, it went into the browns. So when I compare it with something like this, even though these might be similar, when I'm adding just the yellow to just the permanent violet, once I have this combination of colors and I started adding gray, it went brown. Whereas here, when I started adding gray, it stayed purple. Interesting. Also gave me an olivey green. Seems to be the way to go. I will say raw sienna, when I added grays, it really never turned green. So I thought that was interesting as well. My last yellow that I tried, yellow oxide, another earth tone. Obviously there's some red in this purple. There's a lot of red, and this is really like a red violet in my opinion. Adding the grays gave me hints of green. Adding the grays to just the purple, also very, really like tamped it down. But then this combination, I got sort of these mauvey colors, right? This is like a mauve over here, deep mauve. I mean, I like it with the green. I don't know if it's a color palette I want to work with. You can take my word for it, but I highly recommend you spill a little paint on your palette, play around, see what you see, do your own comparison of colors you want to see. I'm going to be playing more with this because I don't know that any of these palettes have I fallen in love with, and this will be next for the series. They're going to go in my swatch sketchbook, but I'm going to keep playing and see what else I can come up with. But I encourage you to do the same, right? If you have different yellows, and it doesn't even really matter what quality. If it's craft paint, play around with craft paint just to see what colors do, because some of these things were pretty unexpected. Like when this lemon yellow started turning things brown, that was a surprise, because when an earthy, I would have thought a nice earthy color, raw sienna, I thought that really would have turned it brown. And it really didn't. It went to peach. It went to sort of a grayish down here, but I never really got a brown out of it. So play with what you have. These are just compliments. See what happens. All right, go out there, have fun, get messy, and have a creative day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.